Assalamu alaikum, lovies. This is Mariam Alima with another episode of What Do You Know About Islam? This episode, this pod is going to be a little different. I more so wanted to be kind of like story time and inquisitive time. I'd rather actually have this conversation with a father, be they married, divorced, single father, co-parenter. Inshallah, I'll be able to have this conversation with a brother soon. I really want to have that conversation. But anyway, this conversation is about co-parenting in a sense, but more so it's about how it's more so how I feel about co-parenting when the absentee parent, be it the father in my situation, doesn't provide financially, and the obligations that then puts on me as in reference to me making sure that him and our daughter are able to have as much time together as they would desire. So when I grew up, I come from divorced parents, and we do want to build a stronger nation, and divorce is nothing that I, inshallah, plan on ever having to go through. I never want to get divorced. I want to get married and stay married and build a strong foundation, have a strong family unit. But, divorce is permissible in instances where if things have become violent, if things really just are not getting any better, and you sought out all types of counsel and you've really given it 110% to try to, really work things out. That's why during courtship, it is so important. The discovery portion is so important. So then you can really make sure that you two are compatible to then, lower those chances of divorce. But again, people grow apart, people grow out of love or fall out of love, whatever you want to say. But anyway, I was very fine as a child growing up with my parents not staying together because it just, for me, from my perspective, looking back, if they weren't happy, then I would never want them to stay together. And I say that they weren't happy because of what transpired afterwards, or how my father behaved. I never, I don't judge my father as a spouse. He was physically abusive, probably verbal, probably emotional, but he was an immense provider. Not that this negates any of the things that he did. I don't condone those actions in the least, but he was a great father. Like my daddy, I love my daddy to the moon and back. And I'm not going to talk too much about my daddy because that's how much I don't talk about my daddy, because I miss him so much, because he was truly such his presence was just so much. It's a very, very huge presence. And he did a great job at being a father. He was a good daddy. He was really a good daddy. And I love him so much, and I miss him. Now, again, with the spouse, I can't really say he was a great provider. That's the only thing that I can attest to, is that he provided as a spouse. Now, when my parents separated, I don't believe he did anything to help my mother with her 4 children, me, my brothers and sisters. So that, I'm not sure, about the particulars or anything. He's not here to give me his side. So as an adult, it is, that time has been so far gone. It is what it is. I'm not sure how other parties feel about it, but that's not what this is about. Well, it's in the realm, but this isn't about my situation as of growing up. This is more about what I'm going through now as an adult and quote unquote co-parenting, because there's the lack thereof of the other parent in parenting. In my situation with my daughter and her father. Um, so it takes, of course, more than money. It takes more than money to be, you know, a substantial parent. It takes time, true love, showing genuine love and devotion, but finances are a huge part. And so with my situation, you know what, when I first had my daughter, I because I had such a strong relationship with my daddy, I made sure I went above and beyond to facilitate that relationship with my daughter and her father, because we definitely soon parted after I gave birth. He was physically violent, and I was like, okay, it's clearly our life or your life. And thankfully no one had to leave this plane. But I he I actually had to get him incarcerated because he was physically violent with my daughters and my with my daughter in my arms, you know, broke into my house, bust the door down or what may have you. Anyway, so I had to get him incarcerated. But during that time, matter of fact, I don't even think that's why he was incarcerated during that's not why. So because I actually ended up helping him get out of jail for that, but he ended up getting reincarcerated for something else, and was located about 2 hours from where we lived. But I still wanted to facilitate that strong bond because she was only about 8 months. And so I, would take her up there as much as, I took her up there a lot to see her, so to see him, and for them to have, and this was actually for about 4 years. He wasn't released out of prison until she was about almost 5 years old. And I made sure, to each his own. Some mothers, parents, be it male, the father or they don't want their children to go inside of prisons to visit that parent because of whatever reasons that they have. To me, I didn't care anything about that. I knew that I wanted that relationship to be solid. A mother, not mother, but a father and daughter relationship is so significant in so many ways that I have friends that did not grow up with the father, and the pain, you can feel the pain that they give off, even though they say, oh, I don't know that man, like he means nothing to me. But you can tell that there is a part of them that's missing because they did not have that figure in their life from an actual father figure, not a grandparent, not an uncle, but a father figure. So that's painful. And for me, it was painful for me to witness that because I know how precious my relationship was with my daddy. And it was like, man, that really sucks. So I never wanted my daughter to experience that type of pain. So that's why I strove, I'm trying to figure out strove a word. That's why I was striving so hard to make sure that relationship was a solid one. So after he was released, or what may have you, now the onus was on him to make sure that he build continue to build upon that relationship, coming to see, because we were still living in the same city. um his he So I know that he loves his child, but just if there's love is an action word. It's not just saying I love you. And I think it's because he doesn't understand how to properly love, that he doesn't really see the damage that's being done with the slackness of his not doing what he needs to do. And that's, now that we live in a different city, which isn't far. It's only about 3 hours away. But calling your child on a consistent basis is one I would feel that you would do if you love, to show that love. Um, Finding you, making a way to find the way to do whatever it takes to. The thing is, my mother still lives in the same city as him, so we are in the same city a lot. And so I would figure that he would find a way to come and get his job. But even without that, I still, most of the time, I take her over there, even without the financial help. Now, he was put on um, child support because, well, matter of fact, he did it with me. It wasn't, I didn't do it out of malice. It was because I needed government assistance. And he went with me to go put himself on child support. So he signed the papers and everything was cool. But, you know, not paying the child support, then that becomes a problem. So the problem that I'm having is if someone doesn't show any type of initiative to make sure their child's well-being is being met, be it financially, emotionally, with at the very least making consistent phone calls, what then, how much responsibility of is mine to then continue to make sure that relationship is, growing and being, having a real good foundation. Actually, I'm not, she's only 9. So, and Allah is almighty. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of damage that has been done just because he's shown he's shown who he is himself to herself. I know why I brought up my parents. I brought up my parents because when they did separate, so this is a very important thing. My father did badmouth my mother to us. And at one point we left my mother's care to go live with my father for some time, matter of fact, a long time, which I'm so thankful for that time. I would not trade that time. The circumstances of how it happened could have been, but it is what it is. Nothing, you can't really change anything else. You wouldn't be where you are. So I'm just so thankful for that time that I was able to spend those 6 years again with my father from 9 to 15. Like, that was just, I needed it. But anyway, him bad mouthing my mother when I was younger, around 7-ish, no, not even around 7, it was around 9 when I started living with him again. And, he would say ill things. And I try my darndest, be them true or whatever, regardless of whether statements are true. My other podcast was just about backbiting and gossiping. Regardless if a statement is true, which is backbiting, if there's malicious intent behind it, then that's where the damage lies. You can provide your child with truth about who their parent is if they ask, if they say, if they want to know, then you have the duty to be honest with that child. I'm very honest with my daughter. That's one thing I detest is dishonesty, because it's a slap in the face of your respect level for me if you think that you have to lie to me. I don't care if they're a child or not. So my child was very aware that her father was physically abusive because she asked me. So I was not going to lie about it. And the reason she asked, because he was physically abusive with a female friend, a girlfriend of his, when he was released from prison when she was around 5. And so she was like, yeah, daddy did this and that and all this other stuff. And I was like, wow, like, I can't believe he would do this in front of his children. Like, because she has an older brother. It was very, I have no words for that. And so she later asked, not very long after, what happened between us. And I was like, well, Daddy wasn't very nice to mommy. She was only about 5 years old. So I was like, Daddy wasn't very nice to mommy. So it just didn't work out. And I left it at that the first time. But then she kept asking, and then she just finally asked, did Daddy hit you? And I said, yes. And so a while after that, I think it was maybe a year after that, he she's very vocal. She's an old little soul, that child of mine. So she was very open up with her father about knowing everything. And so I even had a cousin who, voiced her opinion. She thought that I should not have been on. She thought that I shouldn't have told Alima that. But to me, like I said, I I respect her enough to be just honest, and I believe it'll just do better for her in the long run. That's just my opinion. That's how I'm raising my child, because that's what I wish that I would have received, was just unbiased honesty. So I try not to ever badmouth him. I just give honesty, and I let his actions show who he is. And those are his actions, and she's very well aware of who he is. Um, Now, I'm trying to think where I was going. Um, so yeah, back to just so he asked, he tried to deny about the physical abuse before, and she brought up what happened with him and his friend at the apartment. And so we had to take our family walk around the neighborhood one day, and she expressed herself, and he apologized, and that was good. It was really, I mean, I am the one who made that come about. I was like, you just need to talk to her. I feel like I'm a really great mother. And I feel like that I am a great co-parenter, because I am trying my darndest to make sure that they have that great relationship, even though I'm pretty much doing everything by myself. I try not to allow his lack of financial help, or his lack of doing things consistently, be a hindrance to me continuing to help them have that relationship. But now she's 9, and I'm kind of over it. I don't know. I'm trying to be the godly person, and to continue to stay strong and do the righteous thing. But again, you aren't so supposed to beat yourself up. So, which is why I want to have a conversation with someone with a male that's a parent. I really don't care if they're married, whatever the situation is, but I want to speak to a male that's a parent, and how they feel about how much and how they feel about, should that father, or should that parent, be it a female, should that parent, if they aren't doing what they're supposed to do on a consistent basis. And I'm not just speaking about finances, although finances are a huge thing. It's huge. Like, you don't put any money towards whether or not your child is going to eat, whether or not your child is going to have, heat on, clothes, that's huge. But also just, whether or not you're calling, and this goes for mothers too. There's some not so great mothers out there. If you're not calling your child on a consistent basis, then what right do you, like, why do you feel that you have a right to then demand anything of that other parent? Say if they're in town, now you're keeping my child away from me. No, you can come and get your child, but why do you now want to spend time with a child that you don't give two rats about any other any other day of the week? That's something I'm still, well, again, which is why courtship is so important. Clearly, that whole a lot that relationship was what it was supposed to be, for a learning experience. I learned a lot, grateful for it. got that yummy, delicious soul in the back. So I feel like I won. Like I feel like I won out of that situation because I was just so blessed with such an amazing young child. But do be very, very wary when going into new relationships, and do a lot of just like talk, really get to know each other. So then, even if you get married, because who's to say that we just weren't married? But things like this happen even if you are married. So if you get a divorce, hopefully, so to try to keep you from getting divorces, that's why discovery is so important. But if you do get a divorce and then you're now co-parenting, but you then decide to you know give up all of your duties that you're supposed to do as a parent, where do you then demand all of the rights of a parent? you know So, inshallah, I'll be able to talk to someone about this very soon. If I would love everyone's opinion and advice. So please comment on whatever app that you've seen this video or you've listened to this podcast. And I thank you. May Allah continue to give each and every one of us the light of understanding and to continue to submit our will to His will. Peace.